Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, July 23rd, 2020. So I've been pondering, musing, if you will, on being a rostered minister, a pastor of late. The question, what does it mean to be, or what does it look like to be a pastor during the time of pandemic, has been asked a lot among the clergy groups that I'm a part of lately. And this week was to be the rostered ministers gathering, a gathering of all pastors and deacons in the ELCA that occurs every 3 years. It's an event that I have been greatly looking forward to because at the end of the day, just like I imagine it is in any profession, the only other people who can truly understand what it means to be an ordained minister is another ordained minister. And to be gathered with 1,000 of ordained people in all the diverse glory is an amazing thing. And it reminds us all that we are not alone in this amazing work we get to do. So I'm sad not to be in Phoenix this week, which sounds very odd coming out of my mouth because I really try to avoid places like Phoenix in the summertime. Because no matter what anyone says about dry heat, 120 degrees is too hot. I prefer my shoes not to melt into the sidewalk. Thank you very much. So back to my reflections on being a pastor. I often say to people, it's the hardest and the easiest thing I have ever done. The absolute honor it is to walk with people in all kinds of life situations from birth to death is humbling. To be able to preside at the table at communion awes me every time. To craft worship that is meaningful is deeply joyful for me. To journey through life with a group of people and be the one that reminds those she journeys with of God's presence and love in their lives is breathtaking. I cannot imagine any other work, any other call that would be more fulfilling for me. There are things that I could do other than be a pastor, sure, but to do this uses all of me in ways that deeply matter. The pandemic then does make some of those things harder. I've had to learn to do all sorts of things. This is one of them that they didn't even think to teach me or warn me about almost 20 years ago in seminary. The challenges that we face as church and as leaders in this moment often feel really big. And every decision, each new thing requires a level of thought and care that we have never had to give before. There are days when it gets wearying, when it is weary, as it does for all of us. And on those days, I go back to the last charge in the ordination rite, the last thing people say to me before, or said to me before they said I was ordained. This is it. Care for God's people, bear their burdens, and do not betray their confidence. So discipline yourself in life and teaching that you preserve the truth, giving no occasion for false security or illusory hope. Witness faithfully in word and deed to all people. Give and receive comfort as you serve within the church. And be of good courage, for God has called you, and your labor in the Lord is not in vain. Pandemic or not, these things do not change. This is at the core of a pastor's call. I read this charge and I am still in awe every time that God would call me to this work, that God and God's people would extend grace and love when I fail and walk with me as I try again, that God would over and over again find ways to remind me to be of good courage, which, to tell you the truth, could be a whole musing in and of itself, is humbling and awe-inspiring. On days when I wonder what God was thinking, because there are those days when this call is harder than I ever imagined, and I can't imagine another day doing it, God then sends you Be of courage, dear one, you say. And that, right there, is why I love the work I get to do, because we do it together. And this is true for each of you, not just those of us who are called to the ministry of word and sacrament. It is true for each of you, beautiful followers of Jesus, that when your calling, your work, your life gets harder than you could ever imagine, and you can't imagine another day, God sends us, fellow Jesus followers, to you to say, be of good courage, dear one. And then we walk alongside each other through it all, reminding each other of God's love no matter what. All those things in the charge that I just mentioned, they are lived out each and every day by all of us as we are church together. That I get to bear witness to this work of God's in and through you is my greatest joy. For I see God at work, and I get to hear Jesus in your words, and I get to know the Spirit moving and working in you, and I know the truth of God's love once again. So thank you for the ways that we are church together and for the honor of serving you.